Welcome guys to Let's Build Jurassic Park Part 9. In this episode we can finally move away from our completed visitor center and begin running down the automated tracks and exploring the rest of the park. And in this episode we're going to move through this incredible gate we created in the first episode and begin working on the very first paddocks and focusing on that incredibly grand Tyrannosaurus Rex paddock. However, before we get there, we get to run down those very first paddocks we see in the film, where none of the guests can see any dinosaurs, so they kind of look through the fences, they don't see any dinosaurs, but then we move on to this tunnel, and through this tunnel the cars will ride on through and come out the other side to this huge curving fence that obviously encloses the Tyrannosaurus Rex herself. So we put in, the little tunnel entrances, these grand fences, the little toilet that guy runs into, the lawyer. We have that huge ravine and all those extra details you inspect, including you might be able to see the T-Rex herself hidden away in those trees. So we open here with the track. So I created the track back in the first episode. So if you do want to see how I actually create that, just throw yourself back to that first episode and you'll see my style of the track. And again, like all my episodes, we get rid of all those simple, easy methods straight away. And what that means is I've terraformed this huge area, you can see, putting in that massive valley ready to build the enclosure around it. And now we've got this, obviously, valley built in with World Edit, I now have to populate it with trees and make it feel like a big real jungle, really. Now, as you saw me there placing all those jungle trees, what is also important to place within these kind of forests are oak trees, because oak trees spawn usually a lot smaller than jungle trees, and what that happens is it kind of fleshes out the forest and allows it to look very dense and full. So oak trees are just as important as jungle trees in those forests. So now we're starting off, and this sheep is in possibly, for its sake, the worst spot it could be, because what we're going to build here is that little platform that the goat raises out of and then is obviously ready to feed the T-Rex. And so we can see it over the base of the electric fences. I raise up one bit of grass here and just build a very simple kind of platform in which you could imagine here. So we've got this frame around it, and then this dark grey bit is the bit that rises up, so we put a little stick on it, and then I actually attach that sheep with a rope to the actual little grid itself. I think that works very nicely as a replacement for that unfortunate goat from the film. Now we work on kind of the main bit of this build, is those huge fences. They're possibly the first thing you spotted when we came out of that tunnel earlier, because they're just so big and impressive. And that's something I've noticed is quite a big key point in Jurassic Park, is the fence sizes actually vary on what dinosaur is enclosed in them, which is obviously, it's quite an obvious thing to think. So we saw that paddock in the very opening of the episode, which holds kind of small dinosaurs, so has that small kind of, less impressive fence. And it's the same with the Velociraptor hatchery. We put like a medium-sized fence up for the Velociraptors, but for this, Tyrannosaurus Rex, the fences are so much bigger and so much more impressive. And now what I actually really like about this episode is, as I'm building behind, is that's actually considered a bit of a movie mistake, is the valley beneath us. And it's considered one of those, how did the T-Rex break out if there's a cliff on the other side of this fence? And there's quite a simple answer, and it's kind of explained in the books a little bit better. And in the books they mention that they divide the different paddocks with trenches, with these big giant trenches. And my kind of thinking behind this is, on one side of this valley we have the T-Rex, and on the other side of the valley there must be some sort of other dinosaur and then this valley is keeping them away from each other. So the whole idea of that being a moving mistake is a bit false, really. The cars get pushed around by the T-Rex and they get pushed over towards this valley, in which they then fall in. So now we're just down here putting in those extra little details, and I messed up a lot with this water. I kind of wanted the water to look like it was bursting out of this pipe, which was kind of a bit difficult, because Minecraft water physics aren't exactly the best thing. But finally, by just messing around there, I got it so that the stream of water comes out and then kind of explodes a little bit at the bottom, which I think, it works quite nicely to give that effect that there's a lot of water gushing out of that little pipe. So now we have that big valley complete. It's not really a very, difficult thing to create, to create a huge hole in the ground, have that little pipe coming out. Now this is something, again, I had to kind of look at, and when watching the film, you know, keep pausing it and looking at the whole T-Rex scene really to see where this little toilet actually is. And obviously it's kind of embedded in the jungle here. It's kind of nicely hidden away. So I obviously extended the jungle there, and now we're going to build that tiny little toilet out of, you know, it's built out of like thatched wood and that sort of stuff in the film. So obviously we're using this, you know, oak wood here, because I think they create, you know, they give the best colour scheme towards, you know, thatched roofs and that sort of thing. So adding in a bit more detail than maybe you'd see in the film, because obviously with Minecraft you're going to have to build on layers to give that sense of detail. So, you know, it's something that I kind of did here. Now we extend this walls up nicely, add in some very dark wood here, and I build my very first Minecraft toilet with a bit of quartz, with a quartz stair, you know, a slab and a stone wall, and I think that little toilet worked well. And obviously that's what Gennaro, I think his name is, the lawyer, runs into, and then later on gets killed by the T-Rex. It's kind of brutal. So now we're just obviously, you know, kind of trying to get through this toilet nice and quickly really, because obviously it's one of the lesser bits of the build. So we put a nice little roof on it, and inside here I put a bit of glowstone over the door to light it up and give it kind of a nice warm glow even from a distance. It helps light up even the outside ever so slightly through that door, especially with these shaders that make, you know, there's a huge contrast with these shaders between light and dark. So having lights within buildings is incredibly important to make them look like kind of alive and not all shadowy and a bit derelict really. So now, as I said, this little hut's kind of embedded into the forest, and in a way that all the bushes and all the foliage kind of grow up around it. So that's what we see in the film. So obviously, again, I want to recreate this as accurately as possible. So we have the little hut here built nicely, and now we start, you know, building up the foliage by in a quite a simple style really, but nice and effective. Obviously using the jungle leaves to kind of match that of the forest, and then, you know, using these kind of big, large and small ferns to have like a variety of different heights of size, and, you know, that just kind of have a nice sporadic amount of vegetation. And in the same way, there's a lot more foliage, and it actually surrounds the tunnel. So now we move on to the tunnel here, and I use that exact same style you saw back then, but obviously in a much bigger sense to kind of surround the tunnel itself. Now the tunnel is something we don't get a very good look at in the film, because the cars roll out of it and the camera pans with the cars, so we only get a quick glimpse. And from my quick glimpse I noticed that it's kind of a bit bare, a bit simple, kind of similar to a lot of kind of styles in Jurassic Park. So again, this was a great opportunity for me to have a little bit of creative freedom, and obviously like kind of grab the sort of baseline, you know, the basic style of the tunnel, but then adapt it a little bit myself to make it look a bit more interesting, a little bit less bland. Because the problem with Minecraft is you try and create something modern and bland and very minimal, and it looks a bit too bland and like you didn't put any effort in. So the whole idea here is kind of keeping that same style, but using, you know, a couple of different hints of different like shades of stone and different, you know, different depths to create this quite nice detailed, you know, tunnel entrance. And I feel using these different shades and different materials, especially in shaders, allows the shadows to try and give it like a kind of like bit of, you know, depth. Now you'll notice here I'm just adding that like last bit of detail to this road by surrounding it in gravel, just making it look a bit more constructed, a little bit more industrialized, and, you know, a little bit more like imperfect really, because like I've said in episodes before, Jurassic Park isn't imperfect, you know. Grass is overgrown, mud is kind of splattered everywhere, and it's one of those, just I think gravel give it that imperfect look, and now surrounding it with this long, you know, grass that I've used with bone meal just kind of gives it that kind of nice imperfect look. And that's actually the end of this T-Rex paddock, and in a few moments we're going to move over to those herbivore, you know, those very first paddocks, and just add in the final details there. But what you'll notice here first is that our sheep has disappeared, and I have copied and pasted the Tyrannosaurus Rex from our interior episode and kind of fleshed her out, with a different, you know, coloured wood, and just placed her there, you know, as that extra bit of detail hidden away in the foliage of this paddock. And I think just having it hinted there, you know, hidden behind the trees, has a really nice effect. And obviously if you want to see how that T-Rex is built, just jump back to the previous episode where we built the T-Rex skeleton interior, and then you can just kind of eye up there, you know, the whole style, and kind of develop it there yourself. Now we're going to come back down the tracks here, and you'll see it's all barren and empty, and it's just that basic Minecraft jungle until we get back to our, to our main gate. So now we kind of have to connect up, A and B. So we've got B being the TREX Paddock and A being the visitor center, and that is obviously done by just placing in these much smaller fences. As I mentioned earlier, the T-Rex has much bigger fences than whatever dinosaurs held behind here. So I actually went and grabbed these. These are the same style we use for the Velociraptor hatchery. So again, if you want to see how these style fences built, just jump yourself back to that Velociraptor hatchery episode, and you'll see that style of fence being built there. Now guys, we're at the end of this episode, so thank you very much for watching, and I'd love to see you next